Welcome to From Market to Table. Today we have special guest Chef Mark Arnold, who is making some wonderful looking stuffed mushrooms, and Sam McGurty. He's also doing a spaghetti squash with a 4-cheese sauce. And I'm doing an apple pie cake. So we've got 3 nice fall type of selections for you today, and hope you really enjoy it. Mark, we'll go ahead and you start off.
This is an excellent appetizer. This is football season, but holidays are coming. And the thing I like most about this recipe is it's so versatile. Those of you who have followed me over the years know that I believe in modifying recipes. This calls for crab meat. If you don't like crab but still like seafood, you can add shrimp, you can add lobster. You can use, instead of the seafood, you can add a sweet sausage, you can add a hot sausage. So it has a lot of flexibility. We're going to start with a half a stick of butter. The recipe calls for onion. Here again, I'm using shallots. You can use green onions, you can use white onions, yellow cooking onions, whatever you have. I just like the flavor of shallots. There are 2 schools of thought on mushrooms. Some people use a brush and brush them, others wash them. I'm in the washing category, but you don't want to submerge them and soak them. You just want to wash them under running water. I used to tell my high school students, pretend it's a bar of soap and just roll it around in your hand. After they've been washed, you snap the stems out, very easy, and dice up the stems and add them to our mix. We're just going to cook these until the mushrooms start to change color a little bit. Mushrooms are very high in water content. These can be made up ahead of time. They can be put in the fridge for overnight. I would not freeze them because mushrooms tend to get real watery if you freeze them.
It already smells good.
If you like, I said you could use hot sausage. If you like even hotter, you can add Tabasco sauce at the end. I'm only going to be using Worcestershire sauce and prepared mustard. And here again, if you only have brown mustard at home, use your brown mustard.
Sure.
Use whatever you have.
Yeah.
If you like garlic, if your family are garlic fans, this would be the time to add the garlic. So these can be as versatile as you are, and you want to make them so that they suit your family or your guests. Okay, this looks like it's about where we want it. We want to add just enough flour to make a roux. So about a tablespoon, maybe 2 tablespoons of flour, just enough to thicken this up. We want this stuffing to be firm enough that it stays in place, but we do not want to taste the flour and we don't want to taste the breadcrumbs. We want to taste the seafood and the mushrooms.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, to this we're going to add a little bit of heavy cream. Here again, about 2, maybe 3 tablespoons. The bigger your mushroom, obviously the more stuffing. So if you're using little miniature mushrooms, they'll be bite-sized and they're kind of fun to eat, but you're not going to have as much stem and you're not going to have, excuse me, as much other filling. Okay, once that cream has been combined, we're going to turn this off and bring it over and let it cool down just a little bit while we add our other ingredients. Recipe calls for sherry wine. If you're not a wine drinker, a little bit of apple juice.
Sure.
You want to add a little bit of liquid and a little bit of flavor. I would definitely go to the apple juice if I was using the sausage.
Oh, absolutely.
Because pork and apples goes together. About 2 or 3 tablespoons of sherry wine or apple juice. And we'll let that, the alcohol is burning off, even though I've taken it off the stove. We're going to add our crab meat to stop the cooking process, because I'm going to be adding a raw egg, and I don't want to cook the egg. I want it to just blend in. You notice that the crab is very prevalent. You want more crab than you have mushrooms.
Sure.
We're going to add just a touch of mustard. The recipe calls for a half a teaspoon, but if your family likes mustard, go ahead and add a little extra.
It's good with the ingredients that you can, like you said, very versatile.
Yes,
You can
yeah.
do whatever.
I have said for years that recipes are guidelines.
Right.
Many of my cookbooks have things crossed out and
Yeah.
added in, and
Yeah.
so we have all of our flavors mixed in. And now we just want to add enough breadcrumbs to bind all this together. We don't want to be tasting the breading. We don't want it to be a bread-filled mushroom. We want it to be a crab-filled mushroom.
Right.
We want it to still have a little bit of fluidity to it, so that it's not going to be dry, and it'll be easy to stuff the mushrooms. Last thing is we'll add our egg, and then make any adjustment on that breadcrumb that we have to. But I think we're probably where I want to be. Maybe another tablespoon or two
Breadcrumbs.
breadcrumbs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Preheat your oven to 375. And like I said, this far you can go ahead and make it the day before. But if you are cooking it right away, you want to have your oven preheated. Take your mushroom and a spoon, and you want to just pile that up. And we'll fill these mushrooms. The bigger the mushroom, the easier they are to stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, I can see why it's so important to use the fine breadcrumbs.
Yes.
So you can still see your crab meat, and they just blend right in.
I do. This would be a place I would never use the panko.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I like the seasoned breadcrumbs, the Italian season. Okay, after I've done that, I'll take some more melted butter and just drizzle it over the mushroom and top it with a little bit of shredded cheese. Not the grated, not the real fine, but the shredded Parmesan. We'll pop it in the oven for about 20 minutes. And when it comes out, we have
Nice.
a great appetizer.
Right.
It's great for football games. It's great for the holidays.
simple.
And you can make it different every time you make
Sure,
it.
sure.
You can try it with the crab, and if that doesn't make a hit, try it with a sausage.
Sausage.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's nice.
A great appetizer for this time of year, and it's just a little bit special. It's
Right.
not your average dip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Very
I'll
good.
finish stuffing these, Sam.
That's
while
good.
you
I'll go
take
ahead
over.
and get started. So we were talking. We got the spaghetti squash. We're going to make a 4-cheese spaghetti squash. First, we're going to get started. We're just going to go ahead and get started with the cheese sauce, and then we'll
All
jump
right.
into the squash. So we got a 1/4 cup of melted butter right in the pan. Into that, we're going to add a 1/4 cup of our flour. We're just going to thicken it up, and then we'll add in our milk here after we get this thickened up. Now we're going to cook this for like 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes.
Right.
Just get it all mixed together. It's going to become nice and thick. Good to go. And now this is again another fall item. It's really good. And not a lot of people work with squash, honestly.
Yeah.
Spaghetti squash.
Oh, it's wonderful.
This is the time of the year to get it. It's good. Very
Yes.
good. Very easy to work
And
with.
it's
Very good.
It's a lot easier than people think it is to work with when you think about.
right.
And
And
it's, its name, spaghetti. It's
Yeah.
better for you than having the real
Yep.
spaghetti.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
and
Very
it's
good.
so versatile.
So this is basically, yeah, it's going to be real quick, like a minute. You know, we're just bringing this to the boil. We're going to throw in this milk. The milk, we got a cup and 3/4 of a cup and 3/4 or so that we're going to add. And all we're going to do with this is bring it to the boil. We're going to beat it so there's no lumps.
Right.
Beat the snot out of it, as I'd like to say.
Is that a professional term?
No way. There's no professionality in this in this kitchen. This is all cooking for fun over here. So we're basically just going to beat this, and then once this comes to a boil, we're going to add our cheeses in. That's going to melt. We're going to dive right into our squash. We'll show you guys how to work with that, how
All right.
to cook that. But we're just going to beat this
You
and get all the
wanna
lumps
get
out
that
of it.
Thickened up, and then
Yep, that's basically
then
what
put
it's going
your
to do. Yep,
cheeses
it's
in.
going to get thickened up. It's going to come to a boil, and then we're going to drop our cheeses right in there. It's going to
Now-
melt.
While you're doing that, what kind of cheese do you do?
The cheese, 4 cheeses, again, it's kind of like Mark here. You could use any cheese you really wanted.
Okay.
I went with a sharp cheddar, a Monterey Jack, a Parmesan, and a mozzarella.
Okay.
The mozzarella, Monterey Jack, and the sharp cheddar, they're all 1/4 cup. The Parmesan, it's a little stronger. I went with a 1/2 cup of that. And
Yeah.
then again, even after the cheese sauce, you could throw more cheese on top of the spaghetti squash, because we're going to throw them back in the oven. So this is boiling. It's nice and thick. We're going to add our 4 cheeses in here. And I mean, it gets thick pretty quick, as you can see. Okay, there's our 4 cheeses.
All right.
This cheese sauce is going to melt
Oh, nice.
real nice.
And that's very easy to make. It's quick.
That's so easy. Couple minutes,
Sure.
not even. So this is melting up real nice. It's nice.
So
and
really
thick.
the only time-consuming thing is the
Is
time
cooking
that
the squash,
is in the
correct?
oven.
Right.
And the squash, we're about to dive right into that. That only takes you, we threw it in the oven 35 minutes.
Right.
You put your oven on 400 for about 35 minutes. We're going to crank this off. Let this
And the
heat.
squash, once you take the seeds out,
Yep.
you prep it in olive oil,
Right, yeah.
and then you put it cut side down.
Cut side
Correct.
down.
Yeah.
And be very careful when you're cutting a spaghetti squash, because they're a very dense squash.
Very.
And the squash could roll on you, so be
Yeah.
very cautious
That's
with
something
that.
correct.
Well, you know, one of the easiest things to do with spaghetti squash is put it in the microwave for 2 or 3 minutes. It softens
Softens
the
up
outside
the
a little
outside.
bit, where you'll be able to cut it easier.
Right.
And then you can go ahead and prepare it and put it in the oven.
So
I like the way it looks from
it
the
looks
oven.
good, yeah. Yeah, so we cut it in half, and all we did really was a little bit of olive oil on it and salt and pepper. Like they said, we put it cut side down in the oven. We put the oven on 400 for 35 minutes, and it comes out just like this. Now, all we're going to do is fork it out. It's going to come up looking just like spaghetti.
Absolutely.
Really simple to use. Like you said, it's really healthy. It's the way to go, but it's so easy to work with. Oh, man. It's healthy. And a lot of people don't use it. They don't know what, you
It's
know.
good with just plain spaghetti
Yeah.
sauce.
Yeah, there's
Any
so
tomato
many
sauce?
different
Right.
ways. You could use it, like you said, with chicken.
Right.
You could make it with breakfast. You could throw bacon, crack a couple
Absolutely.
eggs and some cheese on there. And, I mean, you could have a breakfast
Yeah,
spaghetti
the flavors
squash.
blend so easily.
Yeah, and very easy to use. 35 minutes in the oven. It's healthy.
And
looks
look how
great.
nice it
Oh,
strings
just-
out, yeah.
It just shreds real perfect.
And it goes all the way to completely come off
To
the edge of your
Yep. That it
the
does.
skin, yeah.
Yeah, it's got a fairly tough outer skin, so you don't
does.
have to worry about poking it.
Yep. Very simple. We got it all forked up. And now all we're going to do with this is our cheese sauce. We made the cheese sauce took us 5 minutes.
Right.
Very, very
Yeah.
simple. All we're going to do with that is we're going to add right over the top of it. It's nice and cheesy. We're just going to pour this right over the top. Put as much as you want in there. If you like cheese, go ahead, pour it on.
It's hard to get too much cheese.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then again, what we're going to do with this is for about 5 minutes, we're going to throw it back in the oven. If you want, throw some more cheese on the top. It's going to give it some more color if you put more cheddar on there. But about 5 minutes back in the oven, it's going to brown the cheese real nice, settle all down in the spaghetti squash. And you got yourself dinner.
Yeah.
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 You got dinner.
Looks
I mean,
great.
it's simple as that. Really easy to work with. Healthy. The time of the year is perfect.
Very good for you.
Very
Yes,
good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, great. Those look wonderful. So what I'm going to do today is, I said, cinnamon apple pie cake. So you know I'm famous for apple pies, and I thought this would be something a little bit different that is actually very easy to make. The most time-consuming thing is the apples. Now, I use two kinds of apples, the Granny Smith and the Pink Lady. So it takes about, I use at least 8 apples, 8 to 10 apples, depending on the size of pan that you use. And instead of standing here peeling and slicing, I thought I'd go ahead and have these done. Sprinkle them with a little bit of cinnamon sugar, and then they can set aside while you're making the cake batter. Now, what we're going to use for this recipe is a springform pan. You can use, 9-inch to 10-inch. This is like a 10 1/4. So what I want to do is go ahead and spray it with any kind of cooking spray that you have. And then, the recipe that I saw on the internet when I found this, and it actually is from Recipe Girl, so you might have actually seen it, calls for putting a piece of parchment paper inside the pan and spraying it again. It depends, if I'm going to leave it on the tray and then I try to cut it, I'm going to cut into the parchment paper. So this is sprayed very well, and I think what I'm going to do is leave the parchment paper off. So this is going to be ready. So now what we want to do, as I said, the batter itself is just very, very simple. Let me move my apples over a little bit. We're going to start off with 3 eggs. All right. And I decided, it's for the first part here, we'll go ahead and use the mixer. It's easier, I think. Want to get those beat up a little bit, and then to this, what I'm going to add is 1.5 cups of sugar. I know that sounds like a lot, but you're going to also sugar the apples because the cake's going to go down in through the apples. Now, what we want to do is beat this till it's really nice and fluffy, and that also helps to dissolve up the sugar. So we're just going to beat this a little bit. I could have had you guys peeling apples for me.
Yeah, you should have thought of that one.
Yeah.
Thought of that one earlier.
And you can see with this how light in color the eggs are getting. Okay, now to this, I want to add 1.5 cups of vegetable oil and 3 teaspoons of vanilla.
Do you have a particular oil that you like to use over others?
I use canola oil. I mean, that's pretty bland, or the vegetable oil.
Okay.
Those two basically. Certainly not the olive oil.
No.
But. So that's my 3 teaspoons. We're going to go ahead and beat, incorporate all this together.
canola oils are pretty universal. Oil.
Right.
You can use it for
Yeah.
just about anything.
Right.
And it's one of the better oils for you. So
Yeah. Yeah. All right. That looks very well incorporated here. And now the last part is we're going to fold in a cup and a half of flour. So I'm going to do this a little more gradually so we're not clumping it all in. I want the consistency to be still a little bit pourable but thick. You know, it can be a little thicker.
pancake batter or thicker?
A thick pancake batter. Because I've done both kinds. And like I said, we already have our pan pre-seasoned. But you know, you really want the batter to be able to go down in between all the apples and down along the edges. So when you take the form off, you have this nice looking, actually a cake, a pie cake. So we're pretty close to that thick batter.
Yep.
Now you can always put that extra drop of flour, you can always omit it, or you can go ahead and add it. So this, I think, is going to still go down in between very nicely. Now, if you have seen this video on TV, the one thing that they did was they very, very nicely lined up all the apple slices. Now, you know, with these apples, I use these. I peeled them, and when I sliced them, I mean, they're not very thick or very wide. And do you know how long this takes to do levels? Because you want the levels to go up about 2/3 of the distance of the pan. So
It's going to taste
I
the same.
cheated. It's going to taste the same, and I cheated, and I put the apples in. I flattened them out nicely on the first level, added my second level, and you can see it actually looks pretty much, you know, like I did them one by one, sort of. And we'll add another level here. But with this pan being a 10.5 inch, like I said, I think I used close to 10 apples. I mean, some of these apples aren't huge, but I'll tell you, with the brand new apples coming out now, this is my favorite time of year with them.
Well, this time of year, so much is available.
Yes,
It's,
yes.
it's just a joy to shop in the produce department.
Yes. All right, well, maybe I didn't need to do that last apple. Looks nice to me. Now, what I said is I did put some cinnamon sugar on there, but I am going to add just a little bit more, just to sort of even it out. All right, then we'll take our batter. All right. Then what I want to do is make sure I get it all the way to the edges so it can go down the sides as well as down the middle. Now, I do have to say, I've made it before, and the batter was a little bit thicker. And I thought, well, it wasn't going down as nice, so I did poke a few holes in it, which just to help it go down. I think the outsides all went nicely. All right. So now what I want to do, in making sure that it's going to go in, I want to tap it. So as you can see, there's a little opening here. Just want to make sure I have enough of the cake batter there. Some of it's probably gone down inside, so. All right, so this is pretty much ready for the oven, except for on the top of this, we also want to sprinkle with some more cinnamon sugar. This will give that nice color and nice crust on top.
Well, it sure smelled good in the kitchen.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So that goes into a 350-degree oven. Now, you can see we have a good 3 fingers of apples in there. So this has to bake for an hour and 20 minutes. This isn't a 30-minute cake mix. So this will bake for an hour and 20 minutes, and then you can take it out, and it needs to cool completely before trying to take the sides off. And because the apples actually gave off, there was some apple juice and sugar that sort of leaked out the other pan that I had, I did have to loosen up the cake on the inside even before I was able to take it off. But cool completely and then be able to then take it off. And when the cake is done, you can see that you have such a lot of apples that are lined up in there, plus some of that cake mix, and it makes for a very tasty dessert.
Sure looks good.
It looks wonderful.
I think we have 3 wonderful desserts here, or dishes here.
Yes. All we need is a salad.
Yeah.
Ready to sit down.
Actually, I don't know. I'd be happy with just this.
Very, very nice.
All right.
Fall is in the air.
It really is. It really is. Well, Mark, thank you so much for
My pleasure.
stopping by.
Yes.
And Sam, thank you.
Sure.
And we hope to see you again at the market.